to share something with you. That might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from here, and this has been like a therapy session.
This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. The final press conference here for Shields and Marshall, take 2. I'm here with, well, a superstar on IFL TV at the moment, racking up numbers like no tomorrow.
Like Eddie Hearn.
What?
Look at you, you got your little interview with Eddie Hearn, your hour interview with Eddie Hearn afterwards. You didn't ask him the question, why wasn't anything revealed between September the 23rd and October the 4th? But I'm sure it will come out. Probably buried under legalese, then you couldn't. But yeah, it's lovely to be on with you, as always.
Right, just in reference to that, I'm not going to make any comment on that right now, but...
No comment, no?
I'm not going to make any comment on that right now. Everyone's had their opinion on the Eddie Hearn interview, but I'm not going to make any comment on that right now. But we're here, obviously, to talk about, first of all, 5 weeks from the original date. We're quite fortunate to have it in a short space of time of 5 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant that the O2 Arena was still available for October the 15th. As you say, 5 weeks after the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. That hotel, the Riverside Plaza, has been a bit of an odd venue for us the last few weeks. I remember that being the day we sat there after the women had done their press conference, hadn't they? And suddenly the event was off. But we are fortunate, and so are all the fighters on the card. I've been asking them today what they've been going through in those last 5 weeks, and most of them seem to say back to camp, week's rest, sparring, and just getting ready for the fight. So yeah, it's great to be here. Feels really big this time as well.
It's interesting because it's not a long period they've got to worry about overtraining, overpeaking, etc., etc. So I've asked the same questions to all the fighters this week about kind of how they've maintained that 5 weeks, and yeah, it is a bit of a weird period, isn't it? Because the fights, especially at the top of the bill, of that magnitude, to kind of make sure they don't peak too early and don't overtrain themselves is very key.
Yeah, Alicia Baumgardner said she actually had 5 more weeks to get ready, and she actually enjoyed it. Michaela Meyer, her opponent, said that she had rest, then she went back into it and she tapered off again. They both look in phenomenal shape. As for Shields and Marshall, they always look in great shape. I think those two are just itching to go at each other. It's gone on so long, it's been a big build on Sky between these two, with the other one at ringside sometimes. Cardiff, we had Marshall, I think it was Cardiff, we had Marshall having a big pop at Shields' inability to finish her opponent, and Emma Kozin, I think it was that night. It's all salty stuff, rather like the popcorn here at the Genesis Cinema in Bow today, but I'm just seeing the sign on the wall that says salty, and that's what we got in the press conference today.
You're not salty though, are you?
No, never. Why? I mean, I've been peaking for the last 5 weeks anyway.
You are peak. You are the definition of a peak man of 73.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much.
Look, we want to obviously focus on this week because it's a huge event at the O2 this week, but it is being slightly overshadowed by the events of last week. I know, like, you've spoken on IFL about it quite a few times. We was obviously present when the news came out that the fight wasn't going to take place last week at the Canary Riverside Hotel. But today, as it stands, and we're learning more. Say we're learning more. Are we learning more about the situation? Because obviously we saw Conor Benn come out on Instagram yesterday and say that I hope the apologies allowed us to disrespect. This was after the Daily Mail had broken another story, alleged story regarding another failed test at some point this year. What is your assumption over the last 24 hours of kind of what's been going on regarding Conor Benn and this test?
Well, the weird thing about this story, on a personal level, you know, as a journalist, KUGAN, is I've pretty much had contact with everyone. I've had contact with the doctor, Dr. Usman Sajid, can't say anything. His lawyer, Scott Ewing. He has obviously acted previously for Conor Benn, but there's nothing coming out about that at the moment. And most of the work that's going on to bring the story out is people not wanting to say very much. The board have got their own views and feelings on things. Frank Warren has as a rival promoter. Ben Shalom at this event does today. Eddie Hearn's now gone to Australia, I believe, for his event there. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. There's a lot to come out. I haven't spoken to Conor Benn or Tony Sims yet, and I will in the next couple of days. I want to leave them a little bit of space just to go through this. It's a very difficult situation. People might not understand that, but it's a very difficult situation because when you're in the position that I am or you are, you're asking questions, I'm asking questions behind the scenes. People don't want to speak. There's a lot of legalese, there's a lot of legal jargon, a lot of lawyers involved in this situation. And people want to get to a point where they can reveal a lot of information and not make a mistake in doing so to jeopardize their cases. What we know is that there was an adverse finding or a positive test, call it whatever you want to semantically, in Conor Benn's test in early September. Every party knew about it, my understanding is, on September the 23rd. The boards, the promoters, the fighters. They still wanted to press on with the event. My understanding is the board didn't want them to press on with the event. League lawyers were all involved in it from that point. That's all still working itself out. When the Mail story broke on the Wednesday, the board had already made their decision on the Tuesday night. I will clarify again, before the Mail story broke, I heard half an hour before that the fight was off. I'm not revealing my source, obviously, but that one of them had tested positive. Riyadh Al-Samurai had already put the story out by the time I was making phone calls. It's a serious situation. From the outside, I don't see ethically or morally why a fight should go ahead when a boxer tests positive in an inherently dangerous sport, whether he's innocent or guilty, or whether it's a contaminated substance, because you need the requisite inquiry before those two men step into a ring together. So I'm just surprised they even had that discussion behind the scenes. I'm even surprised Chris Eubank Jr. agreed to go ahead with the fight, regardless of the legal and medical advice. So it's a right royal mess. It's a right royal mess for the event last week, and it's a right royal mess because everybody now thinks weird goings on in boxing. And that's where we're at with it. And we need transparency, and hopefully this changes the whole way that information is relayed and made public around situations like this, because it will make it easier for everyone and hopefully make it more limiting to the people who do want to use inherently banned substances on the WADA code to enhance their performances. That clear?
Yes.
Is that clear to you?
It is clear.
Do you disagree or agree?
No, I agree with the majority of what you said. I think the reference point you make to a lot of what can be said and what can't be said due to legal technicalities is very apparent.
Well, you know, because you're doing interviews and people will tell you
but it's not the first time that this situation has happened in regards to what you can talk about and what you can't. I think people need to understand that, even though obviously if you're not asking the right questions in people's perception, then you're going to get hammered either way.
Well, you get hammered anyway. Yeah.
Okay, so look, I wanted to ask you about Chris Eubank Sr., his comments on TalkSport this morning with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver, which we know he's made similar comments over the last few weeks regarding his son, and more specifically to do with the weight of 157 pounds. Now, when it was put to him that he's making strong comments when he says that this is attempted murder, and they, as in we're assuming the organisers, are trying to get me to be an accomplice in this attempted murder, in the words of Chris Eubank Sr., they do sound strong, but when you think of the reality of that's his son, and considering exactly what Chris Eubank Sr. has had to go through over the last year, it's not really that strong, is it?
You have to look at it from his perspective and why he said those things. He's obviously tragically lost his son Sebastian last year. When you saw the state of Chris Eubank Jr. at 157 pounds last Friday anyway, I mean, he looked so emaciated, you were thinking, thank God he didn't step into that ring. People are now saying, should that fight really have ever been made anyway? And there are people saying that. I completely understand his comments. He's a showman as well. He picks his headline comments, his top-line comments very carefully. £157 was a ridiculous undertaking for him in lots of ways, but he did it. They're not deliberately trying to murder his son, of course they're not, but what he's saying is my son shouldn't be stepping in there at that weight, making that weight, and he's entitled to say that as a father, but Junior is his own man. He's not managed by his father, he's his own manager, I think, and it was his decision to do it. His father's just protecting him like a father would. He's expressing emotion about his son in the light of what happened to his other son, having fears for his son. And if that fight had gone ahead, by the way, and even though Eubank Sr. has said he doesn't believe Conor Benn is cheating, that's on record as well, had something inherently dangerous happened in that fight, and it's an inherently dangerous sport, if something had happened in that fight and it had gone ahead and they'd done it under the auspices of another commission or another country's board, and Chris Eubank Jr. had passed in that ring, or he had died, or he had suffered irreparable damage, what kind of case will be facing then in court with a guy who's gone in there and he has tested positive under VADA for a banned PED in his body? That, for me, you're maybe looking at corporate manslaughter then, in that instance. It isn't corporate manslaughter because it never happened, and it isn't going to happen. So in that instance, it's not corporate manslaughter. But if it had happened, you would have been looking at corporate manslaughter. That's why you cannot allow an event like that to go ahead. That's surely why the boxing board said prohibited. We do not want to be involved, they were saying, with a situation where one guy, regardless of whether he's claiming his innocence, without an inquiry, without it being tested properly, goes ahead and fights another guy who, the board didn't say it's incidentally, because they sanctioned the bout, is weighing in at £157 on the Friday, which he hasn't weighed for 14 years since he was a teenager. If you allow all that to happen and something terrible happens to that boxer in the ring, that for me is corporate manslaughter. I mean, speak to lawyers about it, but that's what I believe.
With the situation regarding the board, Gareth, we know that the board obviously follow UKAD as their kind of primary guideline into drug testing. But any drug testing agency, whether that's VADA, WADA, whoever it is, should it not be a thing that if they're licensing and commissioning the fight here in this country under the board's regulations, that they should acknowledge any drug testing agency regardless of whether they're aligned with them. They're aligned with UKAD, we know that, but we've seen similar situations in the past where it's almost a grey area in regards of substances that they're on the VADA list that are not on the UKAD list, etc., etc. So should it be a thing where the board recognise and take action? And like I said, we're talking about Conor Benn here. This situation isn't clear.
No, it should apply to everybody.
But it isn't clear. But he has failed test. But this isn't about that. It's about should they just follow protocol from any drug testing that's involved in the fight if it's being licensed in this country.
I completely agree with the principle of what you're saying, but it needs to be all the licensing bodies recognised that are formidable in the world. Whether it be a WADA test or a USADA test or a VADA test or a UKAD test, yes. And hopefully this case shifts that paradigm and we move to that every single time now. But it makes common sense anyway. If a fighter ever tests positive for a banned substance by a recognised testing body, that test needs to be looked into, and the commission overseeing the fight need the right to request that paperwork, even if it's voluntary, as they were volunteering this, because something needs to be answered. Whether that person then gives a viable reason why, contaminated substance or contaminated in the lab or contaminated supplement, or they took a pill they shouldn't have, it needs to be clarified. And that is absolutely transparent then. Yes, it does. And I agree with you. Anybody that is kind of globally recognised or recognised in America or recognised in Europe that has standing, yes, of course they should. Makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. Because they're not all testing them all the time simultaneously. As we've seen, there weren't that many tests going into this fight. Michaela Meyer was with me on Talk Sport, with me and Adam Catchell on Talk Sport on Saturday night on the phone, and she gave an interview with Adam before the show that we pre-recorded. She said she hadn't been tested by UKAD in the build-up to the last time they were here 5 weeks ago. So, yeah, I mean, the more tests, the better. Why not? Clean sport.
In the very kind of few things that Eddie Hearn has said since the situation, including the very weak interview that I did with him last weekend, one thing he has said is that we've been in a similar situation regarding Dillian Whyte prior to the Oscar Rivas fight, and Dillian Whyte was subsequently cleared of everything by UKAD. Is it fair for Eddie Hearn to say that wait until we know more about the situation and the facts before we put Conor Benn on the... Do you know what I mean? We hang Conor Benn, basically.
I completely agree. And I personally also want Conor to have a hearing. I want him to give his case. I want him to have his chance to give his side of it. Of course we do. We want that. Because it's not fair otherwise. I mean, you can't hang him out to dry. Don't believe in that. Yes, he deserves a hearing. Yes, they should have tried to have a hearing rather than just we're pushing on ahead with the event. Have a hearing and then get the sanctioning body, the Boxing Board of Control, to say yes. Have the hearing. They managed to rush it through with Dillian Whyte. I think he had his hearing on the Saturday of the fight with Rivas, didn't he, in the morning on the Saturday?
The news broke the week after, though, did it? With Dillian
The
Whyte.
news broke a week after, but at least he had his hearing. So why didn't they have a hearing this time? Obviously because of the way that the promotion and the board were at it. Otherwise they would have had a hearing. Otherwise... it's something's lost in translation here between getting hold of doing the B sample, acquiring the test from VADA, pushing it through to UKAD, having an inquiry, and then having an inquiry with the board. If they'd done all those things in the intervening 14 days, maybe the fight would have gone ahead, I don't know. If they'd found a viable reason not to suspend or ban him, and which is what happened with Dillian Whyte. He still had the hearing before, that's what we understand. He had it on the Saturday morning, didn't he?
The limited things that we have...
exhausting.
Oh, no.
No, not talking to you.
No.
The whole thing is exhausting. That's all I've really been focusing on, day in, day out, talking to people for the last week. I'm not complaining that, oh, poor old me. What I'm saying is, it's part of boxing, but it isn't the part of boxing that we're in this for, that we love.
No, I agree with that. The limited things that we have heard from Conor Benn, we know Conor Benn come onto a Matchroom stream on the Wednesday and briefly addressed a situation, didn't go into it. He's put a reference out on his social media, etc. But from his standpoint, it seems clear that Conor Benn believes that he's a clean athlete, but it's his job now and his team's job now to go out and not even just prove that, but show that that is the case. That Conor Benn, if he's got nothing to hide and he doesn't believe he's done anything wrong, then go out and get your name cleared. That's what it's about, surely, isn't it, for Conor Benn?
Yeah, he's got a B sample he can have tested. The B sample and the A sample are cut in half. It's the same sample, for those that don't know. They're collected at the same time. It's the same sample cut in half. He's got that option to request the B sample. And then if it is negative, obviously it's a contamination through the lab. He's got the opportunity to explain why or how he thinks this might have happened. He can explain what substances he has taken, the things that he takes, the nutritious stuff that he takes, whatever he puts. He's responsible for what's in his body unless the actual sample was contaminated, and he's got the option of the B sample to prove that the actual sample was maybe contaminated in the lab. You know, every person is responsible for what they put in their own body. You, I, everybody. So, you know, in that sense, he's got to prove himself. It's not, no one's gone after him. He's volunteered to do that test. He's volunteered to do that testing. So something's gone wrong. Yeah, I mean, I hope he clears his name. God, I mean, So many of us have so much time for Conor Benn. He's brilliant. He's amazing, and it's like finding out. You feel like, oh God, a good friend's done a thing you never thought they'd be able to do. Someone you really love and respect has done something you don't want them to do. So, in some ways, I really want him to clear his name. I mean, in every way, I want him to clear his name because I want to hear that they've cleared his name. Unfortunately, because of the way these things go, there'll always be people that suspect him, and people's names get tainted by these things. Canelo still gets tainted by it. So many other fighters, Dillian Whyte, lots of other fighters, Tyson Fury, the ball meet. People always bring those things up. So, I hope he can clear his name. But we need transparency, basically. That's the key thing. We need transparency.
Okay, well, Gareth, appreciate your time always on IFL TV,
Pleasure.
and I think you said
Numbers.
Gareth, numbers, Davies. I think what's apparent in what you said in the first few minutes of this interview was that a lot more is going to come out on this. We know that the layers on this is going to unravel, where it's going to most probably implicate a lot of people, etc., in this situation. I think that's apparent. I don't think that's kind of even speculation. I think there is, what you're saying there is correct, and there is a lot more to come out on this, and possibly even the biggest story isn't the failed test, if that makes sense.
No, the biggest story isn't Conor Benn anymore. The biggest story is how boxing deals with these situations. And there's now a bit of a witch hunt around boxing, isn't there?
Gareth, we look forward to a great weekend at the O2.
We'll have a little
it's
cheroot.
happening.
Yeah, we'll have a little cheroot.
Cigar.
Yeah, a cigar. I don't.
You've gone on to the vapes, yeah. What flavour is that, by the way? Mate?
Probably get criticised over my ring blowing now. Hang on.
What a maverick you are.
Hang on.
Not bad. Lovely, lovely. We look forward to this weekend, live on Sky Sports. It's going to be a great night,
Yeah,
and
absolutely will be.
the two main events are spectacular, and the undercard, I'm sure, will deliver as well. So we look forward to a great weekend here.
Absolutely. I think I've got Claressa Shields shading it on points, and in a very quick fight, and I've got Michaela Meyer winning on points, unless she allows Baumgardner to let her heavy hands get on her.
That's all right.
Cheers.
Thank you.
I'm going to share something with you that might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife and saying completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from here, and this has been like a therapy session.